All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for being here this morning. We now know who all the early risers are in the region, so thanks so much for coming. Big round of applause for the Desert Bloom Golf Course for putting on an amazing breakfast. Thank you. So first and most importantly, happy Small Business Week, and thank you for being here. Yeah, absolutely. On behalf of the Medicine Hat District Chamber of Commerce and the Board of Directors, I'd like to welcome everyone here to our annual Leadership Breakfast. I'm Trevor Anhill, President of the Chamber's Board of Directors. Before we begin, the Chamber would like to take this time to honor and acknowledge that we are in the traditional lands we are situated on, including Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, Stoney Nakoda, Tsuut'ina, as well as Cree, Sioux, and the Saulteaux bands of the Ojibwe peoples. We also honor and acknowledge that we are on the homelands of Métis Nation. The Chamber is proud to represent more than 800 businesses and organizations in our region, consisting of the City of Medicine Hat, Cypress County, and the town of Redcliff. We are committed to providing the connection, support, and influence that will assist our members' success as we work to address the concerns of our business community and provide the supports necessary to strengthen our local economy. In 2018, the Medicine Hat District Chamber of Commerce decided to expand the scope of our leadership breakfast, which was traditionally prior to the Mayor's Breakfast. As a result, we have elected representatives here from all regions that fall within the Chamber's boundaries. We are so thankful to have our elected officials here early this morning with us, and we are excited to hear from them and gain insight into their priorities and vision. At this time, I'd like to introduce you, your provincial, municipal, and county representatives that will be addressing you here this morning. If you could each stand to be recognized, we will start with Premier and MLA for Cypress-Medicine Hat, Danielle Smith. MLA for Cypress-Medicine Hat, Mr. Justin Wright. Mayor for the City of Medicine Hat, Her Worship, Mayor Linnsie Clark. Mayor for the town of Redcliff, His Worship, Mayor Dwight Kilpatrick. The Reeve for Cypress County, Mr. Dan Hamilton. CFB Suffield Base Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Joe Andrechek. In addition, I would like to recognize the city councilors with us this morning. Councillor Cassie Hyder. Councillor Darren Hirsch. And Councillor Shiloh Sharps, all from the City of Medicine Hat. From Suffield, we have, from the town of Redcliff, we have Councillor Larry Liepert. And from CFB Suffield, we have Base Regiment Sergeant Major Chief Warrant Officer Phil Paquette. And finally, I would like to recognize my fellow directors on the Chamber. First Vice President Steve Hyde. Sarah Franchetto with RBC. Stephen Pudwell with Pattison Media. Les Sholey with Pritchard & Co. And Doug Little with Super T Aviation. All right, we look forward to our leadership panel and hearing from our elected representatives' current priorities, activities, and plans for the upcoming year. So it is now time. I trust that everybody's enjoyed breakfast. If there is anyone who hasn't had breakfast yet, please do so. But I trust now is the time that we're going to start our leadership panel. I would like to welcome our speakers to join me. As I introduce your name, please make your way to the front. Premier of Alberta and MLA for Cypress-Medicine Hat, Premier Danielle Smith. MLA for Cypress-Medicine Hat, Justin Wright. Mayor of the City of Medicine Hat, Her Worship, Mayor Linnsie Clark. Mayor for the town of Redcliff, His Worship, Mayor Dwight Kilpatrick. Reeve for Cypress County, Dan Hamilton.
Hello,
And
Your
CFB
Worship.
Suffield Base Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Joe Andrechek.
That's your opinion.
Okay. One more quick acknowledgement. Also here with us, joining us this morning is Deputy Reeve from Cypress County, Richard Oster.
Oh, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, your leadership panel. Let's give them a round of applause and get things kicked off. Each representative will have 5 minutes to provide remarks about their actions and priorities. Following all presentations, we'll open up the floor for a Q&A period. So please start thinking about your questions. We have a timer to ensure to allow enough time for each of our presenters and time for questions afterwards. So please be respectful of the timing clock in front of you. Each presenter can come to the podium for their opening remarks, following which we will have a mic for Q&A that will be passed between speakers for the questions after. We ask that anyone in the audience that has a question following the opening presentation line up at the microphone positioned in the center of the room. Well, MP Glenn Mott unfortunately wasn't able to be here today. He is in Ottawa. He did provide us with remarks via video. So we will start by hearing from MP Glenn Mott for Medicine Hat, Karsten, and Warner.
Good morning, everyone. My apologies for not being with you in person today as I would have hoped, but obligations have me here in Ottawa. Thank you to the Chamber for hosting this event again and for accommodating an opportunity for me to address you all in this manner. Many folks in my riding experience issues or lack of service problems when dealing with various federal government departments. My office is the appropriate point of contact when constituents face these challenges. We assist approximately between 400 and 500 individuals and our families annually on such matters as citizenship and immigration, work permits, CPP, employment insurance or CRA issues, firearm licensing, as well as problem solving some individualized situations. We also assist local businesses, not-for-profits, and charities identify possible federal funding opportunities to support projects throughout the riding. It is this work that my staff and I do in this community and across the riding that we find most satisfying and that we're the most proud of. On a national level, and as you know, the priorities of the Liberal NDP coalition government differ dramatically from mine and that of the Conservative opposition. Canada continues to face a cost of living crisis brought on by the coalition's priorities. As an opposition MP, I take solace in the small victories we accomplish for our constituents and all Canadians until we form government and begin fixing what's broken. And therein lies the hope. Over the last year, I'm excited about how the common sense Conservative message of hope has resonated with Canadians and continues to grow across all regions of this country. A year ago, the Conservative Party was putting together a new team, a renewed message under our leader, Pierre Poilievre. Together, we developed a plan to axe the carbon tax, to make life more affordable, to rein in government spending and debt in order to keep inflation in check, to reward those who do the work by letting them bring home more of their paychecks, to build safe communities with affordable homes, and to ensure true freedom for all Canadians. When Conservatives form the next government, we will axe the carbon tax for all Canadians. But until that day, we keep chipping away. For example, my Conservative colleague Ben Lobb introduced Bill C-234, which has made its way through the House and is now currently before the Senate. This legislation would remove the carbon tax for agricultural producers when using natural gas and propane for activities such as grain drying or irrigation or heating and cooling their livestock barns. Although it is not the full removal of the carbon tax, which most Canadians are demanding, it will have a huge impact on our local producers until the tax is eliminated completely by us. We've also been pushing the government to rein in their spending. We've been able to force the Liberals to enact a policy that aims to find more than $15 billion in cuts to existing federal spending plans. When you think about it, this is really a watered-down version of Poilievre's proposal to restrict new government spending to the amount of savings found. We've taken advantage of our Opposition Day motions to propose employment insurance premium freezes, to put an end to the carbon tax as well as the alcohol escalator tax, by forcing votes on these motions so that Canadians see that the Liberal NDP coalition government has voted against all of them. Conservatives believe that money is best spent in the hands of those that have earned it, rather than the coffers of a government that taxed it. We've laid out our Conservative policies on how we will tie transfer payments funding to provinces and cities based upon how they approach and accomplish their home building goals, assuring that affordable housing is accomplished in communities that need it. We also explained how Conservatives will reform the bail system to keep repeat violent offenders in jail as they await trial. Last year, in closing, I remarked that freedom and good government were exactly what Pierre Poilievre was intent on providing to Canadians. Now, a year into his leadership and his messages of hope, we can see exactly what he means and how he plans to do it. Friends, it's time for this coalition government to get out of the way and let us, as Conservatives, begin fixing what they've broken over the last 8 years. Thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Next up, please welcome to the podium Premier and MLA Danielle Smith for Brooks-Medicine Hat.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, thank you everyone for that warm welcome, and it is an honor and privilege to be here again, not just in my capacity as Premier of Alberta, but of course as the MLA for Brooks-Medicine Hat. I should acknowledge as well, we've got Heather and Kirsten here, and Heather here. If you go into my constituency offices in Medicine Hat or Brooks, we are getting new locations. So in Medicine Hat, we're now at 740 Division Avenue North. Feel free to pop in if you've got any issues. And in Brooks, we just signed the lease, so I can't give you the address on that until we get all of that approved. But that's, I guess, sort of the nature of the times that we're in. Is it's difficult to find new commercial space, and that's actually maybe a good sign that things are going in the right direction in our region. I also want to thank all the volunteers and staff who helped organize our Medicine Hat Chamber of Commerce breakfast, leadership breakfast, and of course acknowledge the dignitaries here today. The Mayor of Medicine Hat, Linnsie Clark, Mayor of Redcliff, Dwight Kilpatrick, Cypress County, Reeve, Dan Hamilton, Suffield Base Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Joe Andrechek, and of course my legislative colleague, who I like to call my seatmate and my friend, Cypress-Medicine Hat MLA Justin Wright, who is also our military liaison. So he'll be spending a lot of time with you, Base Commander, in making sure that your priorities are met in whatever way we can by our government. I believe that when people are working together, when sharing ideas, investing in a future, we will get a future that's even better than today. That spirit of collaboration is strong in this room, in this city, in this region, and it's part of the reason why we are on the upswing now. As you may know, I was elected to lead my party in the province approximately 1 year ago, if you can believe it. I've been Premier for just over a year, and I've only been the MLA for the riding for just less than a year. I got elected on November 8th. I think you had your last leadership breakfast November 9th. That was my very first duty when I first got elected. But there's a lot of work to do. I just want to take some time to reflect on the past year and some of the good things that we've done for Albertans. This past February, we delivered a balanced budget for Alberta families and businesses. We paid $13 billion down on debt. We created a new savings program so that our investment income is going to constantly be reinvested in our Heritage Savings Trust Fund. Plus, we put $2 billion in that fund so we can see a pathway, not only to growing our savings, but also to ultimately eliminating our debt. And that matters because we've improved Alberta's credit score. And with that, with multiple credit agencies giving a higher approval rating, it means that we have lower interest rates when we do go out to the market to receive debt. So that gives us more money to go to hospitals, roads, bridges, schools right here in Alberta, instead of to the big banks in Toronto and New York. We've created the right investment economic conditions for businesses and entrepreneurs to invest and grow and diversify with thousands of new high-paying jobs. And as you may have seen, this economic record has facilitated a wave of migration to Alberta, people just like you and me who want to participate in everything we offer here. We're now at one of the highest levels of in-migration that we've seen in our history. I think the last time we had this many people coming into Alberta, we have to go back to 1914. We passed a multi-billion-dollar inflation relief package that included affordability payments, electricity rebates. Yes, I know we've got more to do on that. Natural gas rebates, electricity price protection, and a full provincial fuel tax cut, which we're extending to the end of this year. And as a result of that, inflation is lower in Alberta than in all of the other provinces, and it's lower than the national average. And that's something that we should be very proud of here, because that makes sure that the cost of everything is a lot lower than what we're seeing elsewhere. And it wouldn't have been possible to do this without our strong economic position and our balanced budget. We also signed a new Métis settlement agreement. We acted on key recommendations for the Truth and Reconciliation Report, and we doubled the loan capacity for the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation from $1 billion to $2 billion, so we can help underwrite with loan guarantees some major investments and some major projects that allow our Indigenous partners to have their own revenue stream. We signed, I know it doesn't look like I always get along with the federal government, but sometimes we do. They were very helpful during the fires. I was delighted to find out that our friends in the armed forces actually have 300 trained firefighting members who were able to help us all throughout the fires. And we also had a $24 billion healthcare deal with the federal government that ensures that no Albertan will ever have to pay out of pocket for a family doctor. And we're also making long-needed reforms to reduce emergency wait times, restore local decision-making, fix the healthcare system for patients and their families once and for all. You'll be happy to know that Dr. Paul Parks is now the newly installed head of the Alberta Medical Association. I think they planned that, so that he was coming in just as I was embarking on primary care reform, and so we just know that we will have a lot of conversation to make sure that we get it right. One of the things I'm most excited about is we're giving additional payments to doctors as they bring new patients on board, plus we're allowing nurse practitioners to set up their own private practices. So we are hoping that this is going to make a major difference, particularly in rural Alberta, where we've had difficulty in recruiting doctors and primary care practitioners as they've retired. So that was just announced yesterday, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results of it. We're also continuing to diversify the economy by doing things like creating an agri-processing investment tax credit, which has facilitated a boom in agri-food processing investment right here in southern Alberta. Our parliamentary secretary, Grant Hunter, now tells me we've got more fields under cultivation, 65,000 acres for potatoes than anywhere in the country, including Prince Edward Island, and there's more to come, so that's pretty exciting. And communities such as Medicine Hat aren't just participating in the Renewed Alberta Advantage, we're at the forefront of it, and our government is working to ensure that that remains the same going forward. So I'll give you a few examples of how we're supporting Medicine Hat. This past April, our government signed a memorandum of understanding with Saskatchewan and Manitoba to foster the development of new economic corridors across the province. This is part of the mandate that I gave to the Minister of Transportation and Economic Corridors, Devin Dreeshen, to focus on the expansion of economic corridors for key economic hubs in our province, like Medicine Hat to Lethbridge through Highway 3, but also opening up the Wild Horse Crossing to more hours of operation. I signed a joint letter with the Governor of Montana to see if we could work collaboratively on getting those hours extended. Also this past April, our government announced that we're investing $193 million to create 8,000 new seats in high-demand post-secondary programs. As part of this investment, I'm pleased to report that we are investing $2.1 million to create 96 seats for practical nursing at Medicine Hat College. In July, our government announced that we're investing more than $14 million in projects that will support economic development and diversification throughout the Northern and Regional Economic Development Program. And I'm pleased to report City of Medicine Hat successfully applied to this program for regional development strategy to improve capacity and attract and retain economic growth in Southeast Alberta. We were just at a launch yesterday, as well as a project that was assisted by Invest Alberta. S3 has opened up a manufacturing facility, and we're very pleased to see more of that, we hope, in the future. So to keep Medicine Hatters' life affordable, we are also supporting the City of Medicine Hat with ongoing low-income transit pilot program, and I'm hoping to talk to the mayor about how an update on how that is working. And lastly, but certainly not least, I'll just want to talk about our relationship with Ottawa and how this relationship affects Medicine Hat. As you probably saw, Alberta had a major victory recently in the Supreme Court when they found that Bill C-69 was unconstitutional. And that was a major victory, not only for Alberta's economy and provincial rights, but for municipal rights as well. Because it told the federal government they have to stay focused on federal projects on federal lands that are federally paid for. And they can't be interfering in provincial or local jurisdiction. It also provides Alberta with yet another tool to work with as we fight, from Alberta's perspective, Ottawa's oil and gas emissions cap and their proposed net zero by 2035 electricity regs. Our government has been clear. We support a 25 emissions reduction target, but we won't let the government, the federal government, harm Albertans with an overly aggressive plan that is going to, even from our own officials at the Alberta Electric System Operator, they've warned it would trigger an inadequate power supply, potentially trigger ongoing blackouts, and put lives and economic output at risk. And this is equally true for Medicine Hat, where the city owns its own utilities and uses natural gas resources to generate most of its power. Our government, as you saw, has launched a national advertising campaign to inform Canadians about the negative effects of the federal government's proposed electricity regs. And our campaign is calling on all Canadians to make sure that people know that this is, that our federal leaders know that this will hurt not only businesses, but also people. So those are just a few highlights of what we're doing for Medicine Hat, for Alberta as a whole. And I just want to also recognize that it is Small Business Week, something near and dear to my heart. Small businesses are truly the lifeblood of our economy. As a former small business owner myself, I know all of the blood and sweat and tears and late hours that go into owning and operating a small business. It is not for the faint of heart. And as many of you know, Small Business Week, of course, features a bunch of activities, including networking sessions, workshops, meetings, awards ceremonies, to recognize the contributions of Alberta small businesses. And more than anything, it's a time to shop local, support local businesses, and support local entrepreneurs. I know I'm going to do that, and I hope you do too. Thanks so much for having me here today.
Thank you, Premier. So, quick point of order. That was 5 minutes-ish. So we'll relax our time somewhat, because I think that was important for all of us to hear, and we are ahead of schedule. So thank you so much. Next up, I would like to welcome, where are we here? Justin Wright for Cypress-Medicine Hat. Justin.
See, this is both the advantage and disadvantage of following the Premier, as she touches base on nearly everything you're going to talk about. But all joking aside, it's such an honor to be here with the Premier as my seatmate, and the focus has never shifted very far from what's going on here in the Southeast, which is such a great strength that we've got. So thank you, Madam Premier. As a small business owner, I want to say good morning. Good morning to business leaders, community leaders here in Cypress County. My name is Justin Wright. I am the brand new MLA for the charming constituency of Cypress-Medicine Hat, and it is a great honor to speak with you here today. Our city is city and region, are uniquely positioned for the growth across multiple industries. Our centralized location, affordable land, and business-friendly policies have make this an ideal place to set up and grow a business, just like I have here in this community. With new investments in manufacturing, adding value-added agricultural investments such as S3, we're expected to see significant job creation, population growth, and expansion over the coming years. This expansion is exciting because it's going to bring new avenues such as food processing with our agri-food corridor, as well as drone development and manufacturing, transportation and logistics, and other key sectors into our region. Our workforce is prepared to meet the needs with new and expanding businesses. Programs at the Medicine Hat College provide tailored training connecting to our local industry. The college works closely with business leaders to develop curriculums that feed directly into our job market. Our province is making these investments as well, as the Premier mentioned, with our investment in nursing. Beyond training, we're expected to grow in our excellent quality of life here in our region. Our amenities, attractions, and ability to retain talent is a benefit. Affordable housing, strong schools, abundant recreation opportunities make the city a great place to put down roots and grow a family. As business and population rise, we must remain committed to a smart, sustainable growth that preserves the unique character of Medicine Hat and Cypress County. This character is our strength. It's what differentiates us from the rest of Alberta. Our community values and small town feel make this a truly special place to live, work, and invest. With collaboration between our local leaders, we have a thoughtful guide for development and sharing our playbook across Alberta, taking our best practices, standing on the mountaintops and saying, we have the answers. We made them here in Cypress County and Medicine Hat. This is why I believe the southeast corner truly is Alberta's strongest corner. Cypress County and Medicine Hat offer a model of opportunity, innovation, and a balanced growth that other communities can learn from. This is why my key focuses in this role have been strategic population growth, investing in jobs and economy, and sharing those great local solutions, because we know that the solutions made here in small, medium, and rural Alberta translate very well in their scalability to our major centers. But seldomly do major center ideas translate well to small, medium, and rural Alberta. The future looks bright for our corner of the province, and I'm confident Cypress-Medicine Hat will continue to lead the way in Alberta's economic resurgence. Thank you for your leadership and making this a truly amazing community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justin. Up next, Mayor Linnsie Clark.
Is it okay if I just stay here? My comments are going to be very brief. I am quite confident I'm not the person people are here to see today. So in Medicine Hat, we, over the course of the last few months, we've heard a lot about affordability. And of course, that's going to be a major focus going into the next year as well. So, that's a complex issue. It involves partnerships. We're going to have to work. The provincial government is doing their work on it. There's federal work happening on it, but we need to put our eyes on that as well. So, what affordability, we talk about homelessness, and that of course includes everything from, mental health, addiction, but also, job loss and just not having enough attainable and affordable housing in the community. So, how can Medicine Hat facilitate some of the projects that maybe 2-3 years ago we were like, that's bananas. Like, we can never do that. That doesn't fit perfectly within, our idea of what housing should be. To look at these new ways of doing things and see if we can't make those things happen. We did receive our Medicine Hat Community Housing with partnership with the City of Medicine Hat. The City of Medicine Hat donated the land. Province of Alberta kicked in some money to do affordable housing units here. Unfortunately, did not receive the federal portion that was applied for on that. So it's going to be a smaller project unless, the additional funding comes in. But it's a start, and so much. I'm very grateful to the province and community housing for putting that together. It's a beautiful project. Economic development is going to be huge. So we have an economic development director in place now, and again, money from the province. Thank you again. And working with Redcliff, Cypress County, County of 40 Mile, foremost Town of Bow Island, to put together a regional economic development strategy. This is critical. We need to understand our comparative advantages as a region in order to be successful. And also, in order to be successful, we have to find ways of implementing that in a long-term sustainable way. So we don't have this, let's do regional, let's do local, let's do regional, let's do local. And we can have that longevity of the plan and make sure it's respectful of each of the individual cities and towns and counties' own goals and drives within their own economic development strategies. So that's we're getting started on that now. Energy transition and stability, that's going to be a huge focus over the next 2 years, what that looks like. That too is going to require us to talk to businesses within the community, industrial partners, as Lisa brought up at our last council meeting, to make sure that Medicine Hat is a destination for people to live and to work and to come and set up shop. And, the stability of our energy source is going to be key to that, and as well as the affordability. So all of these things, whether it's removing obstacles to development or to events, we've had some really amazing events, and I've been told, especially over the last year, how amazing the city is to work with on whether it's the Skateboard Association or the Jehovah's Witness convention, that, we facilitate their events to happen and be successful. But all of these require partnerships. I think, it may have been possible for any city or town to go it alone in previous years. It might not have been that as successful, but now I think we're very aware that we can't do anything together, so we have to work together as anything by ourselves. I apologize. So we have to work together not only as a region, but with our community partners as well, in order to be successful. The Lieutenant Governor was in town a while ago, and her comment that really stuck with me was, if you want to go somewhere fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And I did take the full 5 minutes. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
4 minutes, 50 seconds. 5 minutes goes fast.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Next up, Mayor Dwight Kilpatrick. And is it okay for the media in the back if they do speak from there, or would you prefer they come to the podium? Okay, you're good. Dwight, go ahead.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Well, good morning, everybody and fellow panelists. I would like to thank Lisa and Trevor and staff for putting this on for us. It's always great to get a seat and see all the happy faces, and congratulations everybody on Small Business Week. I used to do that. It has its pros and cons. Anyway, so as Mayor Clark has alluded to, we are actually trying to get along and meet in the same room, because it is true, economic development is more than just me or her or him. We do have to all work together, and Joe too, because we know that they are responsible for a lot of money in Medicine Hat too, so thank you. So out in Redcliff, same old, same old. I guess the world is what always gives us a brand new, holy smokes, look at that. Because, you think things were just coming to normal. Not. But we still do the same things we always have. Unknown to most people on social media, we work fairly hard trying to keep our services up to date and keep our taxes low. But you'd never know that if you had the social media mensas out there. Anyway, and then some of them even make news because they're quoted as they're omnipotent and they know all kinds of things. And I can't comment on what Medicine Hat does because honestly I don't know, and it's not because I'm silly. I don't spend all my time reading all their information because we have our own information that we have to divulge and make decisions on. So that's what we do. Out in Redcliff, things are plugging along. I'm not going to say they're great, but we are I hope we're doing our job. I hope we're making business easy. The Chamber has been working with Carla. We've got a few of our downtown business people coming together, having meetings on a regular basis, and we're hoping that between them, they can come up with some plans that help them all out as well, because it is a community, and it does take more than one person for things to go smoothly. Other than that, as far as growth goes, we do have a little bit of land left for housing. We have some plans on the north side for development. So we are kind of ready. Our development officer is very quick and easy to deal with. So the red tape reduction, we didn't even have to get involved with because we were already no tape. I just think that the stresses that are on you are also on us, because we feel it too. I look at just over the course of the last year, you know, in our town, we have our CMP, and they signed a 5-year agreement. They unionized. It cost us $300,000 for the last 5 years, because this year they're negotiating their new one. And those kind of hits to a small town matter. We've started renovating our arena that we just put in a little over $1 million floor. Next year, we're hoping to put in $1 million to $1.5 million refrigeration system. Those little things in the community, and everybody knows arenas do not pay. We do not break even. Minor hockey couldn't afford to skate if we charged them a real rate. So everybody in town, all taxpayers have to pay for those few kids to enjoy sports. Those community things do cost us all, and yes, stresses this year, last year, they have been large. Inflation, we did a 3-block road refit. You know, if you think everything is doubled, it's doubled in that field too. And it makes it very hard to do an infrastructure maintenance program when you know every road wears out in 20, 25 years. How do we keep doing that? Not raise taxes, because that's usually a pretty quick slide to not getting reelected. And that's our dilemma. And I say in 2 more years, there's a municipal election, and for all the people that have all the advice, get your name on that ballot, please. And thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kilpatrick. Reeve, Dan Hamilton. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, thank you, Dwight. How do I follow that? Oh boy. Cypress County. Well, look at the venue, look out the window. It's a beautiful county. We try to take care of it to the best of our ability. We love living here. Our capital projects for this year are highest they've ever been in 40 years of being in Cypress County. We've put forth, looking into the future, the councils look forward and said we need a new library, we need a new multi-purpose building. We've put the money forward, and it's going forward. It'll be done this year, thank goodness. It's regional. This is hard to follow all these guys. They've already said everything.
Sorry.
You're gonna have a tough one, Joe. But I think the best part that I get away with every time I do one of these is I was smart enough to bring a video, so I don't have to stand here and talk. So we have a video on Cypress County for you all to watch. So.
So we'll see without anyone running to the mic. I will start with the first question. So first question is for Premier Danielle Smith. As you mentioned, Premier, last time you were at this event, it was the morning after you had successfully won the by-election for Brooks-Medicine Hat. You've been our MLA for almost a year, and in that time, what do you consider to be your greatest accomplishment for our region?
Well, there have been a lot of accomplishments. I think we've got much more to come, but I would say that the investment that we're going to be making in the agri-food corridor down south and the expansion of Highway 3 and getting that accelerated is going to be enormous. I've already talked to 2 additional potato manufacturers who want to be able to come here. We've seen a $700 million investment from McCain's. And as we continue to develop that corridor out, not only if we get Cavendish and one other coming down here, that will then have, I think, a spin-off effect of being able to assist other businesses providing services there. Plus the partnership that we have with the federal government, that with our agriculture and irrigation minister, being able to bring more products on stream from an irrigation point of view. The value of that land when it's under irrigation is just extraordinary. And I think you're going to see with Grant Hunter in the parliamentary secretary role, he wants to do the same thing for beets as he's done for potatoes, as we've done for potatoes. So we've got much more work to do on that.
Thank you, Premier. We do have a question at the mic. I'll ask you to please state your name and who your question is addressed to.
Yeah, this is for Premier Smith. My name is Andrea Paquette. I'm president of the Stigma Free Society, and Alberta was calling because I just arrived 2.5 weeks ago. So thank you for having me. Everybody's been so welcoming. So as a charity, Stigma Free Society, that focuses on youth mental health, I was hoping you could share a little bit about the provincial government's priority in supporting youth mental health, and what are the plans with CASA? What will that look like, and how can other charities get involved?
Mm-hmm. I elevated my mental health and addictions chief of staff to be my chief of staff, Marshall Smith. And if anyone has had a chance to see him, he was at the recovery conference last year. He spent 4.5 years on the streets of Vancouver East Side before getting clean from addiction and being on a pathway to recovery, which he's been on for 17 years. And he's the engineer of our overall mental health and addictions plan. So we're building 11 recovery communities so that we can get those who are addicted into treatment and onto life. We have been supporting mental health for not only kids in school, but also through CASA. We've expanded our support based on the Sherwood Park model so that we can have Calgary and Fort McMurray. I'm hearing we might need to do a little bit more expansion there. In addition, we supported the Child Advocacy Center in Red Deer, which I hope becomes a model for elsewhere. It was a $12 million project. We funded $4 million of it, and they've got 16 inpatient treatment beds, along with outpatient treatment in honor of a young girl who took her life at 17. And so sometimes these tragedies can lead to amazing partnerships and amazing positivity. So we have made mental health and addiction its own separate portfolio because we care about it so much. We just don't want it to get buried in the massive portfolio of healthcare. So we have lots more to do on that. And if you haven't connected with my chief of staff, Marshall Smith, I tell you, he's very passionate about all of this.
Thank you so much, Premier, and thank you for the question. We will move right along to Mayor Linnsie Clark. Mayor Clark, cities all over the province and country are dealing with issues of affordability and housing shortages. What are your thoughts and plan as to how we can address that in our community?
Yeah, well, some of it, is out of our control, like the cost of materials, cost of capital, and so we're, going to be looking to other levels of government to help us wayfind and find solutions there. As I mentioned, I think for a municipality, our role can really be in looking at our own processes. And MLA Wright and I had a chance to talk, and then we chatted with Minister MacIver as well about, how we can work together to provide some kind of certainty, because I think a lot of municipalities are super risk averse. And so, some of the planning things, we might go a little bit higher than what's needed because, we want to make sure that we're not, putting people at risk or any of those things. And obviously we have to follow the code, but how can we work together to make sure that our requirements and our processes are what is needed, not just obstacles and barriers. And then also just considering things that haven't been necessarily feasible before. Like we, have people coming to us with ideas for affordable housing that you can see how 4 years ago that would have just been like tossed aside. But now when we're in such a crisis, like we need housing attainable and affordable yesterday. So how do we kind of speed that process up? Like Joe was saying, having soliciting ideas from industry or community and then whether it's competition or X Prize or whatever, and just making sure we're hearing all of the ideas.
Can I add on to that?
Please.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep my my answers to 1 minute, so. Since I went over. We are looking for ways that we can partner with the federal and the municipal governments. So just going off of what MP Mott had to say, we're taking some of those ideas about how we can have designated dollars associated with accelerating some of these projects. And I'll give a couple of examples. I talked to a councillor in Calgary who said with 2 transportation projects, one overpass and one road extension, they'd be able to open up 20,000 new private sector housing units. So those are the kind of projects we are very keen to look into. I can also mention that Devon Dreeshen, there was one project that had been held up for 7 years with the transportation permit because they couldn't figure out how to do a slip ramp off of Highway 2. He managed to figure that out. So that's also going to open up a new housing development in central Alberta. So we are very, very keen to, for those municipalities that are experiencing that influx of new people, we want to be able to provide that extra infrastructure support. So those are a couple of things that we're looking at. And I will just mention, we are challenging municipalities to not go quite no red tape like Redcliff, but in, at least something in the middle in St. Albert. In St. Albert, they have they have same-day business license, 3-day development permits, and 3-week building permits, and that's kind of how they're accelerating. And so we want to be able to just let you know that that's possible in communities and encourage communities to try to meet that target as well.
Thank you, Mayor Clark and Premier Smith, and for the collaboration. Thank you. Question on the floor, please state your name and who your question is for.
Thank you. Dr. Trina Clausen, RN, and I'm the Executive Director of the PALSER Primary Care Network. Thank you for an informative morning. And my comments, questions are directed towards Honorable Premier Smith. I hate to say it, but I'm old enough that I predate Alberta Health Services. And the creation of Alberta Health Services obviously produced some fantastic things in healthcare for us. But I will tell you, as I worked in the finance department at the time, Southeastern Alberta lost dollars with the creation of Alberta Health Services, and we lost earning power. We saw some high-powered positions move to other places in the province. With the release of the MAPS document yesterday, I'm the first one to say I didn't get through all 333 pages in detail. I think there's some real advantages to that. And because I've done this work for the last 16 years, I know there's been some places in Alberta that haven't been strong. Southeastern Alberta isn't one of those. We have a very strong primary care system here. I would call many of the not-for-profits and AHS people in the room, my friends, my colleagues, we work together closely. So as our MLA, I would ask that you please keep a close eye on Southeastern Alberta as MAPS is moved forward to make sure that we don't lose the great work that we've built here. Thank you.
Completely. Well, I can assure you Dr. Parks is going to make sure that, that our region stays elevated. And I should tell you as well, I've been telling Alberta Health Services from the beginning, South isn't a region and North isn't a region. It is not reasonable to expect people in Medicine Hat to drive 2 hours to Lethbridge or to drive 3 hours to get to Calgary, in the same way that it is not reasonable when there is no road connecting Grand Prairie and Fort McMurray to treat them like they're the same. There's 7 hours to drive between them. So we have to get back to having more zonal leadership that is configured around what the natural economic region is, and then in addition to that, have more decision-making happening at the site level for Alberta Health Services. So I have all kinds of terrible stories I could tell about how You can't get ginger ale in the staff fridge because someone in central bureaucracy has decided it's too expensive. Or you can't get a light changed on an ambulance because it takes 2 days to get the approval, or it takes 3 months to order 2 chairs. That makes me bananas. And so that's the kind of thing we're trying to get with local decision making, keep the benefits that we have of centralized decision making. But I will say about our approach on primary care. Primary care has to come back into having a different governance structure that is department-led, because it isn't Alberta Health Services' principal job, and yet we only have 8 department officials doing primary care, and Alberta Health Services has 122. So that's the kind of realignment that we're going to do more of. This MAPS was stage 1. Stage 2 is going to be announced in the middle of November, but rest assured that that I will make sure that at every moment they know that this region has to be treated differently.
Thank you, Premier Smith. Go ahead. Thank you. Question on the floor. Please state your name and who your question is addressed to. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much to the Chamber for putting this leadership breakfast together this morning. My name is Nicole Neubauer, and I'm a farmer here in Southeast Alberta. You may have heard of me once or twice. Actually, my question is directed to all 3 of our municipal leadership individuals. I am ecstatic to hear about the extension of the food corridor and the investments being made and the potential for value add through agri-food processing. However, I did notice absent from each of the opening comments from our municipal government is the opportunity in agriculture. And I guess what I really would like to understand today is how we're creating alignment between the goals of the province and the goals of our region, because agriculture has incredible potential, and I hope that we can all work together to make it happen.
Thank you for that. Actually, today is a good day to discuss that, where our Deputy Reeve for Cypress County is meeting with Grant Hunter today to go over the Ag Service Committee, I do believe it is. So there's lots of movement coming forward from the provincial government and from Cypress County's #1 goal is agriculture. That's the top of our mandate on our to-do list. So yeah, there's lots of movement going forward. I can't get into the explanations of it all because we're actually meeting with them this afternoon, but maybe, Linnsie, do you know any more on that?
Sure. So we've been meeting regularly with MLA Hunter. There's also a task force. I don't know if it's actually called a task force, but a committee with administration and the provincial government looking at water and wastewater needs, so that we can move some of the agriculture projects forward with the confidence that they'll have sufficient water and wastewater facilities. And as Reeve Hamilton mentioned, we're going to be meeting with MLA Hunter today and just doing a little tour of some of the facilities in our area. And he's a great advocate for the agri-food corridor, and we're working with him to see where we can define our own competitive advantage. We know the whole corridor has different levels of irrigation, and there's a whole broad, whether it's tractors, whether it's some of the stuff that is happening with at Prairie Rural School Division, where it's that education piece, which Ms. Neubauer knows very well. Just the whole up and coming, how we get people into agriculture, and then how we attract agriculture business. And so I only had 5 minutes. I apologize I didn't mention it in my opening remarks.
If you don't mind, I'd like to jump in on this as well. Anytime I get an opportunity to talk about what's going on in Prairie Rose, I like to share it. And the ADC, or the Agricultural Discovery Center, we're implementing the belief in agriculture at an early age. And out of all the things that go on at the ADC, the thing that I'm blown away by the most is when I went and took my tour, I had a grade 9 student leading the tour, talking about the program, leading the program, explaining how he talks to kids. He's like, hey, this is a chicken. This is where your dino nuggies come from. And This kind of investment at an early age, partnering in with education, is how we truly build the next level of egg producers in this province. This is how we really develop that next level of how Canada can solve food scarcity in the world. It starts here with local ideas. And I'm so excited to have so many of the municipal leaders joining Grant and I today as we're able to really push forward on the agri-food corridor. It is imperative we get this done. This grows our prosperity as a region, but it also cements us as being a base for future growth in agriculture here in the Southeast.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm seeing.
I appreciate the one clap.
There we go. I'm seeing a leadership panel with sleeves rolled up and leaned in and collaborating, so thank you. Question on the floor, please state your name and address your question.
I'm Martha Munskew and I'm here on behalf of Southeast Alberta Watershed Alliance, otherwise known as CEWA. And I really appreciate this opportunity to hear our elected representatives in the whole region. CEWA covers the entire Southeast Alberta, basically the watershed from the confluence of the two upstream rivers to the Saskatchewan border. About the food corridor, which I'm really excited about. I'm a home economics teacher by training, and food science is what I taught at high school. And nutrition for early childhood education. But through understanding the watershed, I'm concerned that we need to also pay attention to our natural areas in every one of the municipalities that we cover. And we have the largest amount of unbroken native prairie in Southeast Alberta, and that's one of our strengths. That's one of the reasons we all enjoy living in Southeast Alberta. We still are closely related with the natural areas on the uplands and along the coulees and stream banks. I do hope that the food corridor doesn't elbow its way into the natural areas. Grasslands are the most rapidly disappearing ecosystems in the world, and we have a very large amount of, probably the largest amount of undisturbed grasslands in Canada, and I'd like to see that it be kept that way. And I wonder if in each of the municipalities, what commitment is there to both conserve and to restore ecosystems?
So I'm going to jump in on that one really quick. I've just got a couple points on that. From a provincial standpoint, you can sit down. You're good, and don't feel like you have to stand.
Here.
Okay,
too short to see you.
Fair enough. From a provincial impact, we've been talking amongst the 5 MLAs that the agri-food corridor directly impacts. And we've actually been working with a number of municipalities to ensure that we're putting forward a letter of support around a study in regards to impact to the watershed and impact on wastewater. It is imperative that, to your point, we are doing everything we can to protect what makes Southern Alberta great, and a lot of that is our natural grasslands and our watershed. In addition to that, we are also ensuring that as this goes on, we are mitigating as much impact as possible by making very strategic decisions as to where these roadways go and what lands are being used as much as possible. There's going to be opportunities with growth anytime you have some form of an expansion, but we want to be very cognizant in the risks we're taking to recognize how we can both balance the growth, but also balance the impact that we will have on our great Southern Alberta environment.
That's great to hear. Can I ask a supplementary question that's related? In terms of the irrigation expansion project, which is both funded by provincially and federally, how will that elbow in on natural spaces?
I don't know the exact number of acres or where they will be. I mean, but do know I am sensitive to what happened in the special areas from years ago, that there's just certain lands that can't be cultivated because of the soils. And I can tell you Nate Horner, as our finance minister, will ensure where that balance lies. But I think that's part of the reason why Grant is down here, is to make sure that everybody knows where the expansion is going to be, and also that we don't have any unintended consequences. The fact that we're working with the federal government, both the federal level and our level have environment departments. We collaborate on these kinds of issues, but there is, I think that there is a recognition that there are far more acres that we could develop into cultivated land. Nate Horner, I think, is a rancher, so he has an interest as well in preserving those grasslands as well.
Well, we know that difficulties in that kind of collaboration. For example, this beautiful area here that's been developed as a golf course, if it had been within the city boundaries at the time the golf course was developed, the riparian area would have been protected as a natural space. But there were different values between the different municipalities, and it's now in Medicine Hat. It doesn't, it's here. So the natural spaces have become a beautiful golf course, yes, but the ecosystems aren't there.
I take your point, and I've given direction to our environment minister and protected areas minister, Rebecca Schultz, because we need to provide some certainty to those who are investing about where the go zones are and where the no-go zones are. It seems like everything in the province is a no-go zone, and that creates frustration, delays, decades-long approval processes. We need to do our work to identify what is the value of each land, what is the primary purpose for it, what can have a disruptive use versus that might be long-term versus a temporary disruptive use, and how do we get it back to its natural condition. But we have to provide those go zone areas, because that's creating a lot of uncertainty, and we've got to get some consensus on that. It's a very big province. There are lots of things that we need to protect, a lot of precious landscapes, but there also is a need for us to identify those places that can be developed and can be returned to their condition. So there's a whole process we're beginning on that. We had, I think, 2 of our land use frameworks were developed. We've got 5 watershed areas that we need to develop. So I've told Minister Schultz she needs to accelerate that so everybody has that certainty and also has the ability to make that input.
Thank you, Premier. Thank you, Mayor MLA. And thank you for the question. We do have another question on the floor. I think time for maybe 2 more questions. So please state your name and who your question is addressed to.
Good morning. I'm Greg Paul, Medicine Hat Meat Traders, and thanks for coming out today on Small Business Week. It was an awful early morning at 4 this morning to get things done. My question is further to Nicole's query about the food corridor. The CFIA, Canada Food Inspection Agency, controls the movement of food, interprovincial and export. And as of yet, Medicine Hat still does not have a local agency, which severely restricts any food processing and expansion. Is there anything, and this is to all the groups, and I know you work collaboratively to recruit them to come into this area so that we can expand our sphere of influence in our sales? Thank you.
Well, one thing I'll say, and maybe, I don't know if you're having a chance to meet with Grant Hunter when he's here today. As you know, I spent a little bit of time reading the Constitution, and Section 95 of the Constitution gives concurrent joint responsibility over both immigration and agriculture to the federal and provincial governments. And my view has been that we have really been too passive in allowing the federal government to essentially act as if they have sole authority in that area. So I'll take, if you've got some suggestion about what it is that you'd be looking for, it might be a way for us to be able to fill that gap, because the federal government, I mean, this is part of the reason I think it's joint responsibility, is it's up to us to identify how we might be able to accelerate some of that development and export. And so if you wouldn't mind giving a submission to Justin so he can make sure that the committee sees it, and I'd be really interested in how that might work.
Thank you, Premier Smith. Another question on the floor. Please state your name and who your question is addressed to. Thank you.
Hi, Jackie Taylor, current president of Building Industry Land and Development Medicine Hat, as well as a local small business owner. I know that labor shortages and labor force strategy is something that is top of mind for everybody. My question is directed towards our provincial leaders and wondering what our commitment is for public education. If we wait until we reach post-secondary, it's often too late. Kids need a good, solid public education and availability to more than just the core subjects, but our trade and diversity within our public education. So I just wanted to hear what the provincial government's commitment is towards our K-12 education system.
Well, I'll say K-12 and beyond with all the community colleges that we support as well. Just to jump off of what Justin had to say about Irvin School, it's amazing, and we're seeing a number of schools like that across the province. For instance, in Lacrete, they're developing a program where they build manufactured homes on site so that the kids get access to all the 18 trades that they need to build a house, and then the home goes into the community as part of their affordable housing stock. In Airdrie, they're doing something similar. They're building the house and then they're allowing the fire department to burn it, because I guess there's 4 different ways that you have to burn it up. So, you know, each community is going to do something different. But I'll be visiting the Building Trade Center in Halifax when I go there in a couple of weeks, because I would like to do what they've done. They've created a demonstration project so that a kid can go and spend 45 minutes at each of the 18 stations, and by the time they're done their day, they've had the experience in a single day of what it takes to build a house, and then they know what they don't know about the various jobs that are available. I also went to Lloydminster, and there's a new technology with tactile gloves. So you put on your Oculus, and then you can start assembling different types of manufactured items. I put together a valve. And apparently, if you do that enough times, you become 80% faster than when you do it in, once you start doing it in real life. And so we might be able to leverage all the work those kids did playing video games in your basement into giving them cross-training into some of these great careers. So those are the kind of things that I'm looking to do, is how do we get some more of those projects in schools where it makes sense, as a separate demonstration lab, if we can leverage that. The last thing I'm looking at is, it was put to me that perhaps what we need to do is give young people who want to get into a trades track, give them a different credential so they can just get on with it. In the UK, they have O-levels and A-levels. So A-levels, you go into university, O-levels, you go into trades. Why can't we give a grade 10 credential so that the kid can finish their GED at a community college, but at the same time be getting the training that they need in any of the 300 different professions that are available? So those are the kind of things that we're talking about, because what I have observed is that over time, because all of these different types of professions are getting more and more technological, equipment is getting more and more expensive, it's actually unrealistic for us to expect every single high school to have access to every single program that's available. So we have to be doing a better job of developing these partnerships, developing the relationship with industry, exposing the kids to the opportunities, and making sure they get connected to them earlier. One of the great pains that I have is when our government did the Skills for Job Task Force, we discovered the average age of somebody entering into a trades program was 27. So there's 10 years that those kids are sort of wondering what it is they should be doing in life before they actually find it. So I believe it's our job to connect those faster. So those are the things that I think that we can add value on.
Thank you, Premier. Quick update.
Really quick. So to echo some of the same pieces, I think we've got a lot of really great wins here locally that we can support. And I'm going to shamelessly plug Prairie Rose here again. Sorry.
And Super Tea.
And I'm getting there. Didn't hear Mayor Clark said, and Super Tea. Yes, I'm getting there. When we take a look at the new ways that Prairie Rose is really bringing some of those vocational studies back into the public system, specifically into future-proofing our workforce, we are seeing relationships being built between not just the public schools, but also the post-secondaries in collaboration with the Medicine Hat College, whether it's School District 70 76 in the college with Cooley Collegiate, or whether it's the Prairie Rose School Division getting their students that way. And I know that there's been lots of talks about trades coming into Prairie Rose and the firefighting programs. These are great ways to echo what the Premier's talking about, that we can support public education and make sure that we are bringing the next level that our workforce needs to the forefront. And, you know, as the Mayor has said, you know, there's a great relationship between Prairie Rose and Super T in town here, where not only are these students getting their private pilot's license and getting credits towards getting the commercial license in the long term, they're also getting credits towards SATE with the AME, so I believe that's the Aircraft Maintenance Engineering Program, that they actually built an aircraft that was certified by Transport Canada and flies around Medicine Hat. These are high school kids. It is important that we start this early, much like how we're starting the investment in kids with education with agriculture early. This is a way we future-proof our next generation of workforce.
Thank you, Premier and MLA. We do have another question on the floor. So much engagement today. I am absolutely loving that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Melissa Mullis, and I'm the Executive Director of the Reseller Food and Wellness Hub. So last year, Food Banks Canada released a study based on the hunger count that food banks in Alberta are actually the highest usage across the country. This is the first time that it's been that high. Locally, we're seeing more families than we've ever seen before. The utility crisis, we're seeing a completely different demographic of people through our doors. We are in crisis and we need support. And I'm wondering what the municipality and the province are looking to do for food security. We've talked a lot about, sustainable housing and things like that, but at the core of it, people also need to be fed. So we're just wondering what the plan is.
Would you mind telling me how because we gave support last year, and thank you so much for the work that you do there. I talk about Root Cellar all the time because
you're our biggest
one of the things I remember, I went there and they were making broccoli soup, and I was talking to one of the young women there who had a family of 4, and she was ordering skip the dishes every night. Can you imagine how expensive that was? But because she was learning how to cook, she was now making delicious, nutritious meals at home. And I think you said that for every person who goes through your food program to learn how to cook, 85% of them never return again to needing the food bank support. So I just love the program that you have. So last year we did 2 programs to give, I think, a total of $10 million to Food Bank. Half of it was administered through FCSS as a matching grant.
Yes.
And then the other one was if you did corporate and personal donations, we matched that.
Yes.
Is that the kind of thing we need to continue? How did that work? Was it sufficient? Maybe you can give me some feedback as we're going into the next budget cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing for us would be sustainable funding, funding without red tape, things to pay for operations and things like that. We can't do programs like, that we do without, staff and lights on. And, in our organization alone, we've gone up 105% in our utility bill. So, there's things like that we can't apply for grants for and stuff like that. So it's just really operational funding is a really big thing for us. But right now, because of what's going on in the amount of people that are coming through our doors right now, we actually had to put a lot of our programming on hold to kind of fix where we're bleeding right now. And so we had to put a lot of our staff and our resources towards emergency food because of what's going on in our community.
Yeah.
So.
Let me talk a little bit about electricity. I'm sure the mayor will want to talk about it too, but this is a province-wide problem. What I would say is, I was begging people years ago when I was on the air, as we were phasing out coal, I was begging people to sign up to a fixed rate contract, begging people. And there was nothing I could do to get people to understand that the regulated rate option is actually the wildly variable rate option, put yourself at risk option. I tried to make that very clear to as many people as possible. And part of it was that was a saw-off to the utility companies years ago. Is they said, oh no, we need it to be variable so that when prices spike, people will sign up to a fixed rate contract. Well, here we are all these years later, and I think it's still less than half of people are on a fixed rate contract because they think it's regulated. I'm going to be protected. So we, I think as a government, have to tell people what their risk is. My view is you should only be allowed to go on a variable rate option if you sign a declaration that you know what you're getting into. Because we now know this with variable rate mortgages and fixed rate mortgages, we have that same volatility. So that's one part of it, is that the regulated rate option, it's broken. Going up to 32 cents a kilowatt hour, it's broken. We have to do something to change that. So that's number one. Number two, this is the consequence of the federal government digging into our business. 4 years ago, they made it a rule under their Impact Assessment Act that we are now no longer allowed to approve 200 megawatt power plants or more without it being a federal project. And so guess how many gas plant projects that I have in the queue right now? Practically zero. Meanwhile, we have now grown to 41,000 proposed megawatts for solar and wind. I cannot bring on nothing but solar and wind into our electricity system, because there are periods of every day where the sun doesn't shine, and there are periods of every year where the wind doesn't blow. And that would end up creating a situation where we have blackouts. So that's the situation we find ourselves in. Federal government has meddled in our market to a point where no one wants to build natural gas power plants anymore. And so we have to de-risk them. We may have to bring on other types of power generation that's baseload, like geothermal, like small modular nuclear for the communities that are willing to accept that. But this has been a growing problem with the early phase out of coal without a plan for how we were going to replace that baseload. We are living with the consequences of this now. And so that's why we did the pause on wind and solar. We fought the federal government. We now have the right again, based on the Supreme Court decision that came down on Friday, we now have the right again to make these kinds of approvals. We will de-risk them to get more on stream. We do have 3 legacy projects that were part of the coal conversion that are coming on stream in the new year between January and May. So that will moderate the prices, but that is only going to be a short-term fix. If we do not bring on more baseload power, we're going to end up with this constant problem with instability in our grid. We almost had our grid fail 8 times in the last year, which is extraordinary. It's unheard of. In the past, you might get 1 level 3 alert every couple of years. 8 in 1 year. That is a sign that our electricity grid isn't working. It's almost near broken. Our baseload isn't working. Our distribution and transmission costs are not working. And the fact that we can't get baseload power on is not working. So we are in the process of repairing all of that. So I would give your mayor just a little bit of a break, because I know that Medicine Hat tied their regulated rate option to what was happening in the rest of the province. And I think it took a lot of people by surprise that it ended up accelerating as much as it did. It sounds to me like you've made a decision locally to be able to bring the rates down, but we have to do more to make sure that we can fix every part of that system.
If I may just add on that, definitely support, additional operational funding to the root cellar if there's ways of doing that. I hear that actually a lot from nonprofits. It's that operational funding that seems to be the issue. But really, at the end of the day, ideally, people wouldn't need to use the food bank. But we have seen in our housing realm and with the food bank, more and more people with jobs who have never accessed supports before are needing these services. And that's the affordability issue. We all know the cost of food has gone up, but that's a more complex issue that it requires the pulling of lots of levers. But we're very fortunate here in Medicine Hat on the food security piece that we have, large growers locally that are also very generous in terms of their donations. And we have the opportunity to at least locally have that food security and potentially have some levers there that we can work with.
Thank you, Premier. Thank you, Mayor. And I will make a note that the left-hand side of the table has got a pass today. We're tracking with that, Steve, for next year. We'll just, everybody in the room, just remember next year. Anyways, we're going to move to our last question. Thank you so much. Please go ahead.
It's actually good you said that, because I was hanging into that general area of the table. Yeah. I saw the base commander was itching to answer a question. So I think everybody's pretty aware that healthy CFB is really a big economic benefit to this community and has been a very large economic benefit in the past. And I'd like to see it grow and continue to be a benefit. So I did note that you had said that you're in discussions on BATIS. So I was just wondering, is there anything municipally, provincially, federally that Medicine Hat area can do to assist in attracting the maximum amount of BATIS participation with CFB?
So in terms of discussions, that's going on at the federal or national level between Canada and the UK. And like I said, We're yet to hear what their decision is. We do know that they're reducing in scale. We're not going to see, 2 brigades rolling across Suffield like used to be with upwards of 8,000 soldiers at a time. So a decision on what it will be in the future has to be made. Realistically, I don't really think that it will come back to that size and scale. However, like I said in my concluding little bit, it's the largest training area in Canada, land training area in Canada. You can fire munitions at maximum ranges here that you can't anywhere else. So it is a jewel. And once the UK has communicated a decision, I am confident then that the Canadian Armed Forces will then start using this to the maximum of its ability. There will be a lag, though, obviously, between when a decision is taken and when that benefit is seen. But in the meantime, you will continue to see smaller training opportunities that I reach out amongst my military compatriots, whether it's talking to the American helicopter squadrons that want to come up here because it's closer from the Dakotas for them to come here to go to their training areas to get that, and then working with the Medicine Hat Airport to get fuel, to talking to reserve units as far away as BC to come here to do training. And all those things do have incremental spin-off to the community, including in the past, was it in August, we seen DRDC host Pop-Up City, which saw a whole bunch, again, of industry come, and then saw benefit to the area with hotels and rentals and that. So I will continue to push smaller things at my level until national decisions can be made, and then we can have certainty and clarity for everyone what the future and the scale is of Suffield. Does that answer?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question, Josh, and thank you for picking on the other side of the table. I appreciate that. Thank you, Base Commander. So with that, on behalf of the Medicine Hat and District Chamber Board of Directors and our guests here today, we sincerely appreciate all of our representatives for taking the time out of your busy schedules to connect with us. I would also like to once again thank the Desert Boom Golf Course, as well as our Chamber team. You always do such a first-class job of putting on these events, so thank you. This does conclude our annual leadership breakfast. Next up on our event calendar for November is Midnight Madness, and that will be taking place downtown November 17th from 4 to midnight. A reminder that our President's Reception and Membership Appreciation will be taking place Thursday, November 30th, downtown at McNally's Tap House. Information to register for all of those events and more is at medicinehatchamber.com. With that, please stick around for a photo op at the front table. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.